Stage.
Hello, I'm Thomas, and can you hear me? People complain I don't speak loudly, but this is about how loudly I will probably speak. Okay, thank you. So I'm an advisor to many of the projects that comprise the founding membership of Ethereum Community Fund. Excuse me.
Just stand to have the logo.
So Ethereum Community Fund is basically, there were some projects last year which had done successful token sales to raise money for what they were building. And the consensus was that Ethereum is not quite ready for the types of additional infrastructures and applications that were intended to be built. And rather than wait for Ethereum Foundation or any of the existing infrastructure teams to build everything, there was a recognition that some of this we can do ourselves. And in fact, many of us want quite similar things, and they basically fall under like the definition or label of public infrastructure. So not only will it be useful for us to build, was their thinking, but also it will be useful for the entire Ethereum community and perhaps even the entire blockchain space beyond Ethereum. So the question of why ECF? But first, to introduce these projects, Cosmos, Omisego, Golem, Web3 Foundation, Global Brain, which is actually VC in Japan that was extremely supportive of this, very selflessly supportive actually. Status, MakerDAO, and then that's kind of like an invitation for the entire Ethereum community, because this is a community fund. So Community Fund is essentially a grants program, very much in the style of the Dev Grants initiative, which Ethereum Foundation ran in 2015 and 2016. And it is meant to complement the scalability and other things grants that Ethereum Foundation has relaunched in 2018. But mandate is a little bit broader. But first, why ECF? And essentially it is because we are all driven by the need for change and the willingness to work as a globalized tech community for the greater good. And a very, very sincere wish on the people who do this. So we all know, I think, that infrastructure improvements are required for mass adoption. And in particular, in the areas of education, security, scaling, and user experience. So many of the things which need to be built are not so profitable, not inherently, and maybe trying to make them profitable or make them commercial can weaken the effort. in different ways. It has been clearly identified that, like in the real world, sometimes it's not really possible to expect private interests to contribute to a greater good, where the return is not evident enough. Very often we see the need for public utilities, or roads, water services, waste services. So much of it is this kind of infrastructure. You can think of it as maybe like middle layer infrastructure, layer 2 and onwards. And so because there is no profit model easily accessible for some of these things, then there is no possibility to commercialize. And then if then I cannot own what I build and cannot make money, then there is no possibility that I will invest the money. But if we all get together, then maybe we can see that it benefits everyone, and since everyone else is committing, then we have this feeling that I will not be the only one paying for everything, that other people will just benefit from. And there is, due to various factors, including greater stimulation and interest in the space, a lot of funding that is available that definitely was not available 2014, 15, 16, even 17. And so when we come together to make the open source or decentralized infrastructure solutions, it actually creates a greater value for everyone in the ecosystem. So the mandate that Ethereum Community Fund has taken is to fund the infrastructure projects with a special focus on layer 2 solutions, various types of scaling initiatives, education, awareness raising, outreach, and also, of course, greater developer tooling. And any initiative, actually, which boosts the entire ecosystem as a whole, rather than creates a special interest for any special party. And as a result, the grants team is actually quite independent and has the full confidence of the membership of Ethereum Community Fund. So we want to really encourage, because blockchains, right, we know are not just about how to put money or how to put contracts on the internet, but blockchains are really not even just a computer science thing or an economics thing. Blockchains are a people thing, because ultimately blockchains solve coordination problems. And so when we understand coordination, we understand the collaboration is important for building the infrastructure together. Since we are doing all open source and all decentralized projects, then it is really useful to work together in the spirit of the open source movement, which, if we think about just the incredible power of the decades that have passed, I was just watching again the Mother of All Demos by Engelbart recently, and I just feel like it's so amazing how far we have come to not just being a small room of academic elite, but to being people, all over the world, living in their parents' basement, and it's amazing that we can all do this together. And there's no equity or ownership in ECF. We just want to incentivize projects to develop the solutions that will be beneficial for everyone. And to clarify, because sometimes it's confused, Ethereum Community Fund and Ethereum Foundation are aligned, but operationally not tied at all. Ethereum Community Fund is really the projects and the community that have arisen to work in the ecosystem that was started by Ethereum Foundation. But as Vitalik actually wrote in Reddit, and I don't know how many of you remember, back in 2014, the expectation was not that Ethereum Foundation would necessarily last forever. In fact, the expectation was that it would not, and after some years would be gone. So it is important for other collaboration and coordination to happen from the community directly. And there are also new members in ECF, Electrify Asia, and QuantStamp. So very interesting projects, and yeah. And then, of course, our grantees, Prismatic Labs, which is also the EF grants funded. It's the sharding client for Go Ethereum, first implementation, and then XLNT, very excellent. It's like a special kind of place to experiment with doing different kinds of tokens and making digital assets. ETHPRIZE is quite interesting. It is for, basically similar to what ECF is doing, but they have a lot of capacity and already reach in the community. And so ECF also wanted to support. And then SwingBuy is kind of a novel model of stablecoin, but not fiat stablecoin. Bitcoin stablecoin using futures contracts, a team from Japan. And then Reality Check is like crowdsourced Oracle. So yeah, this is the contact, Ethereum Community Fund. Thank you very much.
All right, changing the world.